Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Matt and I do like video games, and in today's video I've got a little bit of a rant about PlayStation because I, like a lot of you, after this past week's news about PlayStation and this past year with PlayStation, am feeling a little bit down on PlayStation and I just want to rant about it. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Let's get into it. Alright guys, well, it's been a weird week for PlayStation, to say the least. I mean, we start off the week with the Insomniac hack, which is basically, if you don't know, a group of hackers hacked Insomniac, and they got information on Spider-Man 3. Also, an Into the Spider-Verse game, also Wolverine, of course. And they're threatening, hey, if you don't give us $2 million, we're just going to leak all of this stuff. And obviously that's a bad thing, right? I mean, no publisher wants a game as big as Spider-Man 3 or an Into the Spider-Verse game or, God forbid, Wolverine getting leaked years before their release. Like, nobody wants that. Look at what happened with Rockstar and GTA a few years ago. There was a massive, huge leak on GTA 6, and I'm sure Rockstar Games did not like that. In fact, we know they didn't because the kid who leaked this stuff is in jail. So just to reiterate, that's how the week starts for PlayStation. And to give my thoughts on that real quick, if I'm PlayStation, I'm not doing anything about that. And what I mean when I say I'm not doing anything about that is, I mean, I'm not paying you $2 million to not leak my game. If you got the info and you're gonna leak it, then leak it. Go ahead and leak it. In that situation, you have to let them leak it, because if they're asking $2 million and you say, sure thing, here's $2 million, you become a target. You're a target now. For any group of hackers, you are now a target. You gotta just let it ride, hope they don't leak it, but if they do, fuck it, right? At least you're not out $2 million, and at least you're not a target now. Now fast forward a few days later into the week, and we've got the big news, the massive news of the week for PlayStation, and it's not good news. It is that The Last of Us Factions has been canceled. Officially, it's been canceled. We've been hearing rumors and murmurings about this being a possibility for over a year at this point. I mean, earlier this year we heard it was on ice, whatever that means. Well, it looks like we now know what that means. It's dead. And I gotta be honest, of the two pieces of PlayStation news this week, or the two big pieces of PlayStation news, the Insomniac hack and Last of Us Factions being canceled, I'm way more upset about Last of Us Factions being canceled, because I feel like it signifies a problem within PlayStation. So if you will indulge me on this rant, let me get into it. So let's rewind back to 2020, the middle of 2020, right when The Last of Us Part 2 launched. A few months before that, right, there was this post by Naughty Dog basically saying that, hey guys, we know you're excited for Last of Us Factions. Well, it's not going to ship with the game. It's becoming its own thing. It's becoming too big to ship with the game. We're just going to make it its own thing. We're going to launch Last of Us Part 2 campaign, and then later on down the road, we will launch Factions. And with that pretense, Last of Us Part 2 comes out to hugely critical success. Wildly critical success. I fucking love the game. And I mean, hey, it looks like a lot of people agree with me on that, because up until Elden Ring, just 2 years ago, Last of Us Part 2 was the most awarded video game in history. Well, fast forward to December 2023, this month, right? And Last of Us Factions is canceled. And you might be wondering, well, why is that such a big deal? Well, sit back, because I've got a few points that I want to go over really quick to explain why I think that this is a big deal. Now, first of all, I'm going to come at it from the selfish angle. Naughty Dog is my favorite PlayStation studio, by a good margin. And it's no disrespect to any other PlayStation studio, absolutely not at all, but Naughty Dog is my favorite. And so they couldn't launch Last of Us Factions with The Last of Us Part 2 in 2020 when the game actually launched. Fine, whatever. Take your time. Give us the product that you know that it can be, right? I'm all for it. But if it's canceled, you just wasted at least 3 years. You just wasted at least 3 years creating something that we'll never get to play because somewhere along the way you kind of realized, oh, we don't have the resources to turn Naughty Dog into a live service studio. When is the next big Naughty Dog thing we're going to get? Like the next big new Naughty Dog thing. Like when I got my PS5, I got that with the intention of playing the next big Naughty Dog thing on there. Like what's the sequel to Last of Us Part 2? When is that? Because if a lot of your resources were being pushed into, I mean, sure, they have two different teams. You probably got the team working on the next big game, and then you probably got a lot of the people over here working on factions. Well, if you had a lot of people over here working on factions when they could have been over there working on the next big thing, and factions is canceled now, how long is it going to take for us to get the next big thing? I mean, what, 2027? 2028? Is it going to happen this generation? Are we just going to skip a generation? Maybe they launch a game with the next PlayStation? I'm not going to get a single new experience on my PS5 from Naughty Dog? Like, dude, that's disheartening. That is incredibly disheartening. As a huge Naughty Dog fan, and I saw a graphic. In fact, I'm going to see if I can bring it up for you guys here on the video. And it's this tweet here from Zubitech. And if you don't know who Zubitech is, I believe he's more of a typically a PlayStation guy. Nothing wrong with that. But he tweets Naughty Dog's output from the PlayStation 1 all the way to the PS5. Now look at the PS1. Classics. Crash Bandicoot. You can't really beat it. It's a classic. PlayStation 2 was the fucking era of Jak and Daxter, right? 4 Jak and Daxter games. Well, 3 and then a racing game, which is, again, great. PlayStation 3, my personal favorite. Uncharted 1, banger. Uncharted 2, one of the best games they've ever made. Uncharted 3, look, it didn't hit like Uncharted 2 did, but it was still a phenomenal game. And then you got The Last of Us, right? PlayStation 4, Last of Us Remastered, Uncharted 4, Lost Legacy, Last of Us Part 2. That's pretty damn good. Then you get to PS5. You've got Uncharted Legacy of Thieves Collection, which is a remaster of Lost Legacy and Uncharted 4. Then you got The Last of Us Part 1, which is a remake of the remaster of Last of Us 1. And then you got Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, which is self-explanatory. It's Part 2 Remastered. And again, my question is, where is the next big thing? I mean, you look at Last of Us 1 was released in what? 2013. Last of Us Part 2 was released in 2020. So that's a 7-year gap. That's a big gap, right? But in that gap, they also released Uncharted 4. They also released Uncharted Lost Legacy. They also did, Last of Us Remastered right when the PS4 or soon after the PS4 came out. We don't even know what the next big thing from Naughty Dog is. And I'm not saying we haven't seen gameplay yet or we haven't seen an in-depth trailer. Forget that. I'm not worried about that. What I'm worried about is the fact we don't even know what the shit's called. We haven't even seen a logo for it. Nothing. Zero. That's kind of depressing when I scroll through posts like here from Zubitech with this whole Naughty Dog output over the last generations or over the generations of PlayStation, and I see all this great stuff, all these great new things being made, and then we get to PS5 and it's like, yeah, you're giving us updates on the old great things that you made, but where's the new great thing? Where's the new great thing? And I'm sure you're making it. I'm sure you're working hard on it. You must be. Because you're a studio. You're a top-tier studio. Of course you're working on it. But god damn, is it soul-crushing that we don't know what it is. And all we're getting in the meantime is just remakes and remasters. And then the one new thing that's supposed to break up the monotony of all these remakes and remasters is this big multiplayer thing that you guys have been touting for years, and I've been so excited to see, because I didn't get to play Last of Us Factions back in the day because I wasn't playing it. But seeing how people love that kind of got me excited for Last of Us Factions 2, and I'm like, man, I can't wait. It's a multiplayer experience that I can only have on my PS5, and I was excited for that. It's the one new thing, and it's canceled. It's done. And this is great because this kind of leads me into my next point, which doesn't have much to do with Naughty Dog as much as it has to do with the entirety of PlayStation, right? If PlayStation is telling me that they can't properly allocate resources or enough resources to make Naughty Dog capable of creating this big multiplayer game. If they can't do that for Naughty Dog, their best studio with their biggest IP, because Last of Us is PlayStation's biggest IP. I know, Spider-Man is what it is, but when I think of Spider-Man, I think of Marvel. I don't think of PlayStation. When I think of Spider-Man, I think of Marvel. When I think of Last of Us, I think of PlayStation. That is their biggest IP. The show came out this year. It did numbers. It just won an award at the VGAs. It was phenomenal. It was a great show. The games are indisputable. The awards speak for themselves. You just released the remake for part 1. You're going to be releasing a remaster for part 2. People are going to eat it up. It is what it is. It is your biggest IP. You're telling me you can't allocate the resources to make a multiplayer game based on your biggest IP, but you just had a showcase full of nothing but multiplayer games, nothing but live service games, and I'm supposed to be excited for those? For those games? The games without the cachet of The Last of Us? Like, if you're not going to do your biggest IP justice, what makes you think that I have any confidence that you're going to do Concord justice? Or fair games justice? That doesn't instill any sort of confidence in me to do anything on your platform, really. And here's an argument that I heard is the fact, or it's not even really an argument, it's just kind of a fact. It's literally a fact that they can't allocate the resources, or they don't want to turn Naughty Dog into a live service studio. Like, Naughty Dog does what Naughty Dog does, and what Naughty Dog does is fantastic single player games. And PlayStation apparently wants them to be focused entirely on just doing that. So they don't want to allocate all these resources to take their attention away from that and have them working on this big live service game that may or may not pan out. And you know what? When you explain it like that, that's kind of rational and I can kind of understand it, right? But it begs the question, why the fuck were you planning for this to be a live service game? Why on earth does everything need to be a live service game? Just make a regular ass multiplayer game. You guys could have done that. Listen, again, I didn't play Last of Us Factions 1, but you look at the community of that game, you look at the gameplay clips online and everything, it had a cult following. They seem to have it nailed down. Uncharted 4's multiplayer was fantastic. I really enjoyed that. They had the multiplayer formula nailed down. Do that on a slightly bigger scale in Last of Us Part 2. It doesn't need to be this expansive, ever-evolving game. Like, not everything needs to be Fortnite. Not everything needs to be Apex Legends. Like, those games exist because they're good at doing that. They started doing that, that's what they do, and they nailed it, right? But sometimes a game can just be a multiplayer game. It can just be a regular multiplayer game. Like, that can exist. And there's no reason to think that, hey, if you found this cult following, this cult success with Last of Us Factions, the original, that it wouldn't just grow with Last of Us Factions 2. If you do the exact same thing, but make it bigger, make it a little bit more expansive. That's all. And the key word there is a little bit more expansive. Not this grandiose thing that cost hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to create. Just a regular ass multiplayer game. That's it. Why is that not possible? Because listen, as a gamer looking in on this, I'm not a game developer. I'm not part of a publisher. I don't know how much it costs to make these games. So what I'm about to say might sound a little bit ignorant, but there is this whole thing going around of, oh, games cost so damn much to make now. It's so damn expensive, especially on Sony's side where, they are, relatively speaking, a smaller company, but they do make these big, grandiose, big, high-budget games, right? Well, if they're so expensive to create, maybe peel some things back. You can still make a quality experience without it having to be the biggest thing in the world. And again, from the outside looking in, maybe the reason that games cost so much is the fact that everyone's trying to be a live service. Like, again, Last of Us Factions is the most recent example. They don't want to turn Naughty Dog into a live service studio. Well, then why did you try to do that? Why did you literally try to do that only to be like, never mind. We don't want to do that. Like, imagine the amount of money, the amount of time and money wasted trying to turn Naughty Dog into a live service studio only to realize, we don't really want to do that. We don't really want to do that. Like that money, that time could have gone into another thing that maybe we would have heard of by now. Like I look at something like Fortnite, Apex Legends, like Minecraft, like Rocket League, like whatever insert live service game you want to put in there. It's like those are outliers. Those are outliers. Those are not like the norm in gaming. Like it's what a lot of gaming aspires to be, but it's absolutely not the norm. There, for every Fortnite, there's a trillion Fortnite wannabes that come and go so fucking fast. Like obscenely fast. And that's a lot of money wasted. That's a lot of money wasted, a lot of resources wasted, a lot of time wasted. And it doesn't need to be like that. That's why this whole live service pivot from PlayStation is just so weird. Like, just make a few regular multiplayer games. You did it before. Look at the PS3. You had Killzone multiplayer. You had Resistance multiplayer. You're even doing deals with other studios to make games like MAG, an entirely huge, massive multiplayer online shooter. Like, you can do stuff like that, right? It doesn't need to be the biggest thing ever. Like, save some money, save some resources, save some time, and just give us a fun multiplayer experience, because that's really all folks want, is fun. Lots of fun. It's just baffling, the kind of decision making that comes up with the idea that The Last of Us Factions needs to be this huge, massive live service game. That kind of decision making doesn't instill any sort of confidence in Fair Games or Concord. And I mention those two specifically often in this video because they're the two that I can remember. But you had a full show of live service games earlier this year. Like, this canceling of Last of Us Factions after the decision to make it a live service game in the first place inspires absolutely no confidence in your brand as a multiplayer publisher. Let's say that. So now what does this mean for PlayStation is the big question. And does it mean they pivot hard back to single player? Do they just kind of erase that last showcase from their memory and make the hard pivot back to single player? But we just have to wait and see. And that's the part that sucks, is the waiting and seeing, because we don't have any source of hope. Like, of course the studios at PlayStation are working on stuff, but God, what is it? What's Santa Monica working on? What's Naughty Dog working on? What's like Sucker Punch with Ghost of Tsushima? When are we getting Ghost of Tsushima 2? We don't have any sort of roadmap, and without a roadmap, there's absolutely no hope right now. And when you're getting news like this on top of there already being no real hope, I mean, what are we supposed to think? What are we supposed to think right now? Like, this is the first time in my adult life where I'm not really excited for PlayStation. Like, I'm genuinely not excited for PlayStation. And that's not to say they won't have exciting things. It's just, I don't feel like I have a reason to be excited for PlayStation right now. They've given me no reason. In fact, they've given me a few reasons to be quite the opposite of excited. But guys, I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling at this point. But I did want to make this video and just rant. I feel like I'm not seeing enough people calling PlayStation on their nonsense right now. And that's upsetting, because I want better for PlayStation, because I bought a PS5, I had a PS4, I had a PS3, I had a PS2, I had a PS1. I'm a PlayStation fan, and to see them in the situation they are right now and nobody's really calling them out on it or asking for better is just it's kind of disheartening. But I just wanted to make this video and rant a little bit. Leave a comment down below. Let me know how you're feeling about Last of Us Factions being canceled, the Insomniac hack. I mean, let me know how you're feeling about all this. This year from PlayStation in general. Let me know how you're feeling about it down in the comments. Let me know how you're feeling about the future for PlayStation. Leave a like if you like the video. And if you're enjoying this kind of content and you want to stay up to date with it going forward over here on the channel, the best way to do that is consider subscribing. Consider ringing that notification bell, because that helps you stay up to date with everything that happens over here on the channel. And it helps promote me in the algorithm, helps push the videos out to way more people. And I always appreciate that. With that being said, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.